Forget generic advice. A hidden score suppressor is holding your file down despite 0 inquiries and 0 balances. Something specific is holding the file down, a reporting glitch, a timing problem, or a mixed file issue. Some little bottleneck you cannot see unless you know where to look. This is Optimize Credit, where we teach how credit actually works. So in this video, I want to show you how to debug your credit score the right way. Not guess, not panic, debug it. Because once you stop treating your credit like a mystery and start treating it like a system, the problem usually gets a lot easier to find. Most people get the same credit advice over and over. Pay on time, lower balances, do not apply too often. That advice is not wrong, it is just too broad. If your score is unexpectedly low, the real question is not, how do I improve my credit? The real question is, what specific thing is keeping my score from behaving the way I expect? And that starts with the reason codes. Every real score comes with clues. Sometimes they show up as reason codes, sometimes they show up as adverse action factors after a denial or lower approval tier. If the system is telling you things like balances are too high relative to limits, too few accounts are currently paid as agreed, or the accounts have not been established long enough, those are not random labels. That is the scoring system giving you its closest version of debugging output. This is where people make their first big mistake. They feel frustrated, skip the clues, and jump straight into action. If the issue is utilization, disputing an old address is not going to help. If the issue is a duplicate negative or a mixed file, paying down one card may not solve the main bottleneck. So start with the clues, then move to the reports. Pull all 3 bureau reports and read them side by side. Not one, all 3, because your Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion files are not guaranteed to match. One may have a positive account the others are missing. One may still show a stale balance. One may have a collection entry reported differently. One may have the wrong personal information tied to the file. And if you're near a major lending threshold, that inconsistency can be the difference between a usable middle score and a disappointing one. When you read those reports, you are looking for a few specific things. Duplicate negatives. If you want a free personalized 30-day action plan built from your actual credit report, head to optimizecredit.net. Now let's keep going. Stale balances, missing trad lines, unauthorized inquiries, wrong personal details, and signs of a mixed file, where your data and someone else's data may have been blended together. Mixed files are a real problem, not a minor annoyance. They can be hard to spot because the file may look mostly normal while still carrying damaging noise from somebody else. If you see names, addresses, or accounts that do not belong to you, do not shrug that off. That may be the hidden suppressor right there. And if you do find an error, do not send some vague, lazy dispute that just says, "This is wrong." Precision matters. Identify the exact field that is wrong. Is it the balance, the status? Documents, keep records, and if the issue is serious, especially with mixed file problems, a more formal paper trail is often stronger than random clicking online. Now let's talk about the suppressor that hits people constantly, utilization timing. This one fools people because they think the score should react to what they remember doing, but scoring reacts to what was reported. That is not the same thing. If your statement closed with a high balance, that high balance may be what got reported to the bureaus. So even if you paid it off the next day, your score can stay suppressed until the next reporting cycle updates the picture. That is why statement timing matters so much. And here is another trap. A lot of people only watch total utilization. They miss the hot card. You can have an overall utilization number that looks decent and still get suppressed because one individual card is too close to the limit. That single card can make the file look riskier than the total number suggests. This is exactly why AZEO matters. AZEO means all 0 except 1. In simple English, that means all your revolving cards report 0 except 1, and that 1 reports a very small balance. The point is not to carry debt. The point is to control the snapshot. For a lot of FICO situations, that creates a cleaner pattern than having several cards report balances all at once. It is one of the fastest ways to test whether your score is being held down by the way balances are reporting, rather than by some deeper problem. And sometimes the score still does not move the way you expected because the issue is not an error and it is not utilization. The issue is the structure of the file itself. Maybe you have a thin file. Maybe your average age is too short. Maybe you have too many recent inquiries. Maybe you just do not have enough strong primary trade lines. This is where people make expensive mistakes because they start treating new applications like a debugging strategy. They open another card. They ask for a limit increase without checking whether it's a hard pull. They add multiple new accounts in a rush, and they forget that a weak file can get weaker in the short run when you add new inquiry stress or slash the age profile. So do not assume every credit-building move is a debugging move. Sometimes the wrong fix just adds more noise. And then there's the scorecard issue. This part sounds technical, but the practical idea is simple. Credit files do not all get judged on one giant, smooth scale. A thin, clean file is not being judged exactly like a mature, clean file. A derogatory file is not being judged like a non-derogatory file. That is why small changes can sometimes create bigger score jumps than people expect. It's not always because the action was huge. Sometimes it's because the action moved the file into a better scoring neighborhood. That is why debugging beats random point chasing. If you are close to a threshold, fixing the right suppressor can matter more than doing 3 generic good credit actions that never touch the actual bottleneck. So here's the map. Boom, 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 boom. If the problem is inaccurate reporting, dispute it precisely. If the problem is utilization timing, get balances down before statement close and watch the individual cards, not just the total. If the problem is a thin or weak file, build primary trade lines carefully and stop making random applications. If the problem is score mismatch across sources, figure out which model and bureau actually matter for your lending goal. And if the problem is a serious negative file with active derogatories, be honest with yourself. That is usually not a debugging-only issue. That is a longer recovery issue. The biggest takeaway is this. A credit score usually does not stay stuck for no reason. There is usually a reason. Your job is to find the suppressor instead of throwing generic advice at the file and hoping something works.
Understanding these foundational rules is only step 1. To map out your exact next moves, run a free profile scan and get your 30-day action plan at optimizecredit.net. And make sure to subscribe for more step-by-step credit education.